Hello and welcome to the Smart Beauty Podcast. I'm your host, Viola Levy, beauty journalist and founder of copy-led branding agency, Smart Beauty Creative. We're here to create your brand voice and craft the story behind it. Hello and welcome. Now, normally with guests, I take some time to do some research and find out a little bit more about them before I do my intro. But for this guest, I don't need to do any of that because I have known her for as long as I've been in the industry. So Deborah Johnson is an incredible PR that I basically grew up with when I started out. So when you're a journalist, when you're a young journalist as I was, you have PRs that you get to know and who are maybe also starting out in their careers, and you kind of grow up in the industry together. And Deborah is one such person. I consider her not just a long-time colleague, but a very dear friend. And she is one of the best in the business, I'd say, when it comes to beauty PR. She worked at Pure PR for a number of years. I believe it was about 8 years that she was there. She might tell me off for getting it wrong. So I will put in the show notes if it was a different length of time. But she was there for a long time, basically. And she was a protege of Pure PR's founder, Kelly Marks, who I interviewed a few months back. And you can go back and listen to that episode. And she goes into raptures about Deborah. She knows how to connect with journalists. She knows about beauty. She also runs a hair salon with her mum when she's not doing her PR. She's a lady of many talents and wears lots of different hats. So she set up her own consultancy a few years ago, Deborah Johnson Consultancy, where she offers not just PR services, but also brand consultancy and various other levels of expertise that you can get in touch with her if that's something that you're interested in. She recently hosted an event with the boutique called the Mayfair Edit, talking about luxury beauty when it comes to Black consumers, how that space is evolving and what it needs to do to change. So that's going to be the topic of our discussion today. What I will say about Deborah, the only thing is that she does not blow her trumpet loudly enough, which I'm hoping that she will remedy, and hopefully this podcast will help rectify that, because yes, she is so incredible and I cannot recommend her enough. So really looking forward to chatting with her, and I hope you enjoy our discussion. So hi Deborah, it's so lovely to have you on the podcast. Firstly, obviously I know a lot about your career background, but for those who don't, can you just tell us a little bit about your journey in the beauty industry and how it got you to where you are now?
Right, firstly, V, thank you for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. Just seeing all your work that you're doing and like being such a strong voice within the beauty industry yourself, I was like absolutely honoured for you to ask me.
Oh, bless you.
Not
It's
just
a
a
pleasure to
friend.
have you on.
So my journey, I've been in the industry for about 17 years now. 11 of which were spent in agencies, so from interning up until being account director. And then the last 6 years, I've been a freelance PR and brand manager, sort of specializing in working with independent brands and founders. So yeah.
You work for the amazing Kelly Marks at Pure PR. I think that's where we met.
Yeah,
Uh,
I often like that was my sort of like stomping ground where I really got to cut my teeth in the industry. It was a great agency to work with and work for. Just like I don't think I could have like have stayed or as felt as passionate about the industry if it wasn't for an agency like Pure. You know, they
mm.
gave a lot of autonomy to me and a lot of creative freedom, and I got the chance to learn firsthand, getting really stuck in so many various aspects of PR. And I often say I don't think I'm your atypical beauty PR per se. And for me, Pure was an agency that had such a rich texture of different individuals there that I don't think
Mm.
I felt at home or at ease anywhere else. So I credit Pure, Kelly, Marks, Cara Ward, and also Tanya Bard, for helping me be where I am today. So yeah, shout out to all three of those ladies.
They're amazing. And I think there's a lot to be said for a company that just allows you to be yourself because then you don't have to carry the extra emotional burden of trying to kind of fit into this monoculture.
Most definitely. I think it's one of those situations where a lot of respect and trust was put on the team, individual members from like juniors up onto seniors to contribute, because everyone's perspective is different and adds value. So I thought that was really, I really, really loved that. But also a lot of guidance was given. I think if they say what is that saying in Spider-Man? Great power comes great responsibility. So you're given
Yeah.
away, but nurtured, but also taught how to be responsible with that power, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. And I think because we sort of grew up in the industry together, so I think I gravitated towards you because you had such a unique perspective on things and you were an outspoken voice in the industry. And obviously, recently you led a panel talk talking for British Beauty Week, talking about the role of Black consumers in the luxury beauty space. So yeah, I'd love to sort of find out more about why this topic was so important to you.
The panel for British Beauty Week. I had did it in collaboration with Beauty Edit Mayfair, which is a store in the heart of Mayfair,
Mm.
and I feel the conversation is often overlooked despite its significance. When I first started out in the industry, I rarely saw black faces marketed to when it came to luxury,
No.
luxury beauty, and it really jarred me in a way. You see, like for me, black consumers have been long time like key drivers of cultural influence across industries, particularly in beauty.
Mm.
However, contributions and their unique needs have historically been marginalized or underrepresented, especially in the luxury sector. And I've had conversations with people in the past in the industry which has really kind of like floored me things, conversations such as like saying that because the black population in the UK is so small, it's not essentially financially viable or central to market to them. Or with retailers who said they just don't know how to market to black consumers. And like
Wow.
For me, it's just not about inclusivity, it's about equity, acknowledgement and opportunity. The spending power of the Black consumer in the beauty industry in general is immense. I mean, we have statistics and data that supports that. I mean, and I'm not just talking about luxury, I'm talking about in general. And the
Mm.
preferences can often set a tone for, I feel, for wider beauty trends. Yet luxury brands sometimes don't adequately recognize this or celebrate its demographic. So, but
Mm.
highlighting their role encourages brands to not only diversify but also generally invest in representation at every level, from product development to advertising.
That's the key thing, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
getting those
And
people, the decision makers, representing who they're trying to target.
exactly. And another thing I wanted to kind of like, because I want to have this event and have this conversation, was to delve into the subject as to what exactly is luxury for the Black consumer and do a definition marry with the way the industry views luxury generally. Because like, I feel it's funny because like the word luxury for me, I sometimes feel in this day and age is misused and overused. I
Oh,
don't know if you
definitely.
say like luxury used to generally denote exclusivity in terms of like access by economic position. But today I feel really applicable. Is it really applicable when you have so many luxury brands who are marketing to the masses? So it
Yeah.
was quite intriguing to me. But I guess like one key takeaway that I got from the event, and I always like I tend to like do a lot of sort of consumer research and directly speaking to the general public, not just those within beauty. I do it. I get a chance to do it through the salon that I own. I also encourage brands that I work with to do focus groups. And so one key takeaway that I got from the event, like generally kind of like lands with me, is that luxury Black women tends to be aligned with having something that has been created with them in mind, So it's been made for them specifically. And I can see why that is, particularly when you haven't had that in the past, where you've
Mm.
had to fit into what has already been created, as opposed and your individual needs have been ignored or not been considered. So I thought that was when I kind of look at luxury for the Black consumer specifically, and kind of seeing that one of the kind of levels of what luxury is like, okay, this has been created with the image in mind. So yeah.
Yeah. So I obviously would have loved to attend just to sort of point out that I had my own panel talk that night. Otherwise, I would have been like front
And
row,
then
like
I must have been at yours as
cheering you
well.
on.
I really wanted to go.
But what were the other main talking points? Was the consensus that the future of luxury beauty for Black consumers is to have kind of more Black-owned brands at the helm, or do you think that there is a responsibility for sort of the big luxury brands to sort of be more inclusive and to adapt their like messaging and product offering accordingly?
Luxury, when it comes to like catering to the Black consumer, I feel luxury brands are doing it well in certain ways. Increased product offerings is one of them. I see
Mm.
predominantly within the makeup sector, like many luxury brands have expanded shade ranges and foundations and concealers, etc. Also, in terms of like marketing, there's been a notable like uptick in campaigns featuring black models and ambassadors. However, sometimes it can feel very tokenistic or inconsistent
Yeah.
if that is not embedded into the brand's DNA at the core. And that was one of the things that came up is just like, okay, you have these black people in your sort of advertising campaigns and your marketing, but where else does diversity kind of like intertwine into your sort of company culture and your plan long term? Um, Another thing that I thought was quite interesting is how in the West specifically, luxury is always marketed for a Eurocentric lens, not
Yeah.
necessarily paying attention to the heritage or cultural differences of wider races and ethnicities. And this can really set a tone, I feel, for how luxury can be presented, perceived, or consumed in a certain way. And that was another thing that came up. It was the idea that luxury and its presentation shouldn't be a one size fits all thing. It's
No.
not like in order for this to be deemed luxury, it needs to look like this. It needs to be consumed like this. And a brand actually, I feel I saw recently do a campaign which I think is phenomenal in presenting luxury, but also paying homage and respect to culture as Orbe. They've recently
Mm.
released a campaign with this Kenyan artist. I think her name's
I
Bandiwe.
saw it. It looked incredible. Absolutely amazing.
Fantastic. I mean, like, it was a joy to see. It pays homage to another culture in a really expansive way. And it's not just like, oh, we're just going to do hair, because we're a hair brand, we're just going to do like black or African hairstyles. No, it
Mm.
was this beautiful video campaign that was shot with her, really kind of like telling the history of cornrows and their sort of cultural significance and historical significance, but then also away from that, they had her design their Christmas holiday season packaging, which is influenced by her culture as well. And I
Yeah.
think that was just on every level so beautiful. You've brought in a black collaborator to do it. You have educated on the a beauty aspect, which is the hair, and then the commercial aspect is bringing that person's kind of heritage and culture to the masses via the holiday
Mm.
gifting campaign products. Like luxury brands can occasionally draw inspiration from Black culture, just generally, like in product design or marketing. But it is often done without authentic engagement, with Black communities, and this can lead
Yeah.
to things like cultural appropriation,
Mm.
and feel like really just tokenistic and not a sort of genuine collaboration or celebration. But I think the Orbe campaign completely is reversed that. It celebrates, it collaborates, and it doesn't feel tokenistic at all.
Mm. And I know you probably sort of answered a bit of this in what you've just said, but just to kind of emphasize, what is it that brands can take away from this? Like, what can other brands do better? Using Oribe as an example. And I know you mentioned a little bit, but just to kind of outline what the main takeaways from that should be.
Go deeper. Don't just think, okay, we're going
Mm.
to launching this product, so we're going to make sure we do a campaign that just shows this space. Like the fact that they collaborated with a black artist slash professional, the fact that they made it a commercial product that was going to sell and reach more people beyond just the digital screen. The fact that like they brought in the cultural significance and richness of an aspect of Black beauty. It
Mm.
felt multi-leveled. It felt really kind of profoundly thought out. Yeah, so I think those like looking at those different brands can draw inspiration for that, making it a multi-level collaboration and celebration.
Mm.
Another thing that was quite interesting, I feel like in terms of Black consumers and how luxury brands currently cater for them, that I always find is a barrier slash hurdle from consumers and also from Black brands I have repped or worked with is like I can never say the word retail accessibility. High-end beauty retailers don't always carry products or brands that prioritize Black consumers.
Mm.
And this limits the visibility and accessibility in the luxury space. And more often than not, when it comes to brands that are created with Black consumers in mind, they are created by Black founders, Black
Yes.
founders that tend to have to bootstrap or are not quite at the, or nowhere near the level of larger sort of brands. So with luxury retail spaces, you could if the playing field isn't even, it's not equal. And I feel
Mm.
like from a retail accessibility point of view, retailers need to have genuine support of Black-owned brands. I think this looks like not expecting independents as well as Black-owned brands to be able to perform to deliver the same margins as a brand
Mm,
that is larger. They haven't got the same marketing spend. But also, I love the recent interview with Rhea Cartwright, and she also pointed
amazing.
out
Yeah,
something
amazing woman.
really significant is the fact that a lot of buyers in the UK are mostly white. So there are blind spots there. They're not
For
necessarily
sure.
seeing the purpose or the value in brands that provide products that are not for them. So that also provides a barrier to the retail accessibility point of view because yes, online is great, but also bricks and mortar is equally as valuable. And
Mm,
I tend to find a lot of consumers, like a certain demographic of the Black population still does like to shop on in bricks and mortar, So making sure retail opportunities within luxury spaces are available for brands that serve a Black consumer, particularly Black-owned brands that serve a Black consumer is
for
really, really,
sure.
yeah.
And to go back to what you said about the sort of common argument that gets kind of trotted out is that, oh, we need to prioritize, the kind of big name brands that are going to make us a lot of money, and the Black consumer, it's a small section of the market, so it's not going to be as profitable for us if we carry these kind of Black-owned luxury brands. Like, what would your response be to that?
I feel like it's one of those things where I'm really because like as far as I just like having a general kind of lay of the land in terms of beauty retail, you see the same brands in every retailer.
Yeah.
So where is your competitive edge? Where is your point of difference, really? If I can
Mm,
get this product from the X, Y, and Z, you are diluting your opportunity for sale. So therefore, why not just like create a point of difference where you truly offer
mm,
something that no one else is offering. And particularly for a market such as Black consumers who we know have significant spending power, there's that piece of data, which I do challenge that data now, where it's like, I think it's like Black consumers spend 6 or 8 times more on beauty than
the white counterparts.
yeah, and I
Mm,
challenge that data. I question it, reason being because I think that data still is for the US. I would love to
yeah.
understand data for the UK. And then also, what are they spending? Is it like they're spending little on high price items, or are they spending more on lower price items, if you know what I mean? And
Mm,
is that because they have to shop around there and get more stuff because their needs haven't been catered to? So I think there is an opportunity for a retailer to really kind of delve into that data to create a strategy that really, really understands the Black consumer and speaks to them and provides significant value to them. Because like
mm.
I feel like a lot of retailers for a moment it's a lot of the sameness. I mean, and it's not just around like I feel like race, but I feel it's around age diversity as well, if I'm going to be honest. I
Definitely.
saw a campaign for a rebrand of an online retailer. And I laughed when I saw it because in all the visuals, I don't think there was a single person over the age of possibly 30 in that ad campaign that was like rolled out of home and on their digital. And I was just like,
And that's the
again,
thing.
opportunity to really do something different, and you just didn't.
Mm.
Went same for same. And I find that really disheartening. Where is the creativity or the kind of like the daring in our industry anymore? And I think that applies to how you market to sort of different racial groups, but also how you market yourself to different age demographics. Because I think
Sure.
there is sometimes an often overlooked consumer, not just Black consumers, who feel that the industry doesn't speak to them, has forgotten about them.
I think that sort of is very sort of poignant in the luxury beauty space. I mean, before you got into beauty as a career, like when you were shopping for like luxury beauty, how did those brands make you feel as a Black consumer?
I mean, I've been doing this for 17 years and I'm 38 now. When I was in my 20s, I wasn't able to shop for luxury
No,
beauty.
no.
Um,
But when you were like just even looking at like their marketing or be selling you the dream that you think, oh, maybe one day when I'm old enough, I can like
I think,
walk.
yeah, as I mentioned before, like I think I never saw major luxury retailers speaking directly to me because
Mm,
in the marketing there was never anyone that looked like me, firstly. So it was one of those things where I think subconsciously it kind of lends this idea to like, okay, maybe is not for me. But then also it's the way in which it was marketed. It's like, oh, and it's that thing where, oh, if I, because it's presented in a certain way, like I need to assimilate and I should like aspire to present myself in that way.
mm,
I guess as a younger person, I was more impressionable as to feeling the need to fit a mold to be seen as successful, desirable, etc. But reflecting now and looking back and sort of sitting here now speaking to you, that sort of marketing doesn't appeal to me at all.
no.
It's just like when you sort of come into a point where you are confident and have come into acceptance as to who you are, that sort of marketing doesn't marry with how I see myself or how I want to show up.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, completely. And when we talk about luxury beauty and what makes a luxury product, I mean, there is kind of a push now in the industry towards more masstige products. So products that still have the high-end premium formulas, but are a bit more accessible in price point. Do you think we should be pushing for more of those types of products as opposed to staying in the luxury space, which, to be honest, is very elitist and quite exclusionary in lots of ways?
Yeah, I think like as I mentioned, like I feel like the lines between what is luxury and what is not luxury have become really blurred, particularly from a beauty perspective. Um,
Mm,
I think of traditionally luxury sort of like brands such as your Chanel, your Gucci's, your Dior's, etc. And they are marketing to the masses, you know? Um, so I feel like there needs to be much more economic considerations put through from brands who want to have mass appeal. So price point shouldn't be the only kind of thing that denotes you as luxury. It should be quality of product. When it comes to, because we're living in a time where economically people are struggling. You know,
for
the
sure.
the whole elitist exclusivity by price point is sort of like rhetoric, feels a bit redundant and out of touch for the vast majority of the population, the Western population. So the brand can still deliver on quality but make their products more accessible for everyone, that's
Mm.
only going to be positive, you know. And I would like to see a world where like luxury is not seen as like just a thing that is denoted by price. You know, it's like everyone deserves an aspect of what luxury feels like to them, and they shouldn't be excluded because of what they can and cannot afford. But then also if as a brand, if you want to be financially successful in this market, you
You need the
need to
margins.
exactly you need
Yeah.
market level, you need to appeal to a wide demographic of those who have socioeconomic sort of differences.
Yeah, because you think they're missing a trick, given that, ironically, the luxury sector has less money than the mass market sector. You'd think, why aren't they appealing to as many different demographics as possible?
Yeah,
Um, which
yeah.
is kind of baffling in a way.
Yeah, it's
But
one of those things where I don't, like, yeah, I just like, what still is the pillar that luxury sits on? Why do
mm,
we still need it? You know, particularly from a beauty perspective. Like, I really would love to just do an interview series of luxury beauty founders and like be like, what makes your brand luxury? They would say innovation that informs the price point. But in this day and age, really, I think the most innovative brands that have the most funding behind them to actually push for innovation actually are mass brands like Boots
mm,
for example. They have a lot of science behind them and a lot of like money invested in research, but they have a price point that is relatively accessible.
that's the
So
thing.
yeah, I don't understand. Well, it's not I don't understand. I'm not their customer, but but I understand luxury for those that are wealthy is a status thing as well. The price point, they'll say like, "Oh, I bought this £700 serum," because to that
Mm.
demographic, that's chump change to them. And if a business feels that okay, we just want to focus on that demographic, even though it is as in the lesser percentile of the population, then fair enough. But why?
Yeah, so do you think it's a case of we need to kind of actually change what we kind of define as a luxury product? Do you think that's part of the issue here?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I would love to like kind of understand more from the general industry what is like what defines a luxury product, definitely. And
Mm,
just like really, really interrogate that because I know what luxury means to me. Speaking with other women of color and other, actually, no, and also just not to work out general friends who are not in the industry. I think this is also really important. Speaking with people who are not in the industry, who still consume beauty,
Mm.
what do they perceive as luxury? Like, so really, and using that to really kind of like set the foundation as to what luxury looks like going forward. 'Cause I think we'd be surprised that luxury for the most people is not what we think it is.
Do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I don't because like I remember I had a dinner, some friends over for dinner. It got around to the conversation of luxury and stuff, and I was like, so what brands do you consider luxury? Like, do you consider Dior, Chanel? And they're like, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
And these are
interesting.
women my age, various like ethnicities, and like if I can buy it in Boots, it's not luxury. One of my friends said, and I was like, okay, interesting.
Mm. So it's more about kind of rarity.
Yeah, rarity, exclusivity. Another thing actually I wanted to get to later in your question was like the idea of like, okay, there's that saying that money talks, wealth whispers.
Mm.
I think in that line of thought, if you have to scream out that you're luxury and you're
You're
luxurious,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about it's that kind of whole quiet luxury trend, isn't it? And how you brand yourself and that yeah, you want to sort of show that you're this high quality brand, but
Start saying it. And
yeah.
what are the and I think it's an individual thing, like for a consumer level as to what they read in that makes them perceive it as luxury. But I think it's in essence like a brand that is truly luxurious or it doesn't need to tell you that they are. You just perceive
Mm.
that from it.
Yeah, kind of show don't tell kind of thing. Do you think there's like a genuine commitment within the luxury sector to be more inclusive? Do you think that brands are trying, or do you think that it's still kind of a huge blind spot within our industry at the moment?
Yeah, I think brands are trying. I think we can't deny there's been huge strides in the last like 10 or so years within the luxury sector within the last 10 during like Black Square Summer, as our friend Karen likes to call it, like there was a huge uptake in brands across the board wanting to speak to and appeal to the Black consumer. And then also you had data that has been coming through for the last 10 years about the spending power of the Black consumer, the Black pound. And brands cottoned onto that. So they started seeing the sort of Black consumer as a viable customer base for them.
Mm,
And so marketing changed, advertising changed. And the intention, I feel sometimes has been there, but understanding that true change takes time, understanding that in order to capture that customer base that can often be a bit mistrusting, may have economic limitations, will take a while for you to build up that customer base. So it can't just be a click of fingers, bam, done. And if it does not work after the first campaign, you give up. No, it needs to be the commitment. If you're making it, needs to be long term. It has to have a long term view and potential. Also,
mm,
another thing I feel like is there's like, in order for you to genuinely show your commitment to sort of diversity and luxury beauty, make sure the people you're hiring who are decision makers
100%. Yeah.
are as diverse as possible. You know,
Mm,
like if you're not doing that, then you haven't really got a commitment to it. It's just tokenistic. It's just you're doing it for the money grab. True,
yeah.
a true kind of commitment shows hiring diverse team members from those up all the way down and understanding that this is a long game. It's like going back to that comment that I had a couple of years ago when someone had said like it's not essential for luxury brands to market at Black consumers because they've got such a small percentage. It's just like I get that I think we make up less than 5% of the UK population, but there is still spending power within that 5%. And if
Mm.
a commitment looks like not just seeing it as a commercial money grab, it looks like, you know what, we see value in you. So therefore, we're going to put the time and effort and understand the long-term strategic potential of engaging and catering to you. Yeah.
And I think if companies are at a level where they can't afford maybe to like they don't have the capacity to take on new team members, they could do what Aribe did and work with artists and content
Hire
creators.
consultants, hire
Mm.
consultants. And
Consultants, yeah.
yeah, and the thing is, like, if you're going to
Like
make
Deborah, for example,
that like
just saying.
me, and the thing is, like, if you're going to make these hires, be sure you're going to listen to them and what their perspective is.
Mm.
Because like there's no point in hiring an expert or someone who's versed in the field if what they say does not marry with what you want to hear. That is
Yeah.
just pointless. It's a waste of money. Also, away from the consultants, do deep diving research on the customer base that you want to attract. Don't just like look at numbers from blanket surveys or statistics that aren't very nuanced enough to understand. Do
Mm.
focus groups and like kind of like yeah, just focus groups or community-based sessions with this demographic to fully understand not just the quantifiable, but the qualitative insights as to what they can give you. You
Yeah.
know, and this takes time and effort. So be really willing to commit to your kind of like your desire for diversity, putting the time and effort in to hire diverse sort of staff members or consultants and speak to the customer base you want to serve in a really meaningful way.
What do you think that the mass market is doing at the moment that you think luxury brands can learn from in that respect?
Ooh.
I mean, do you think that the mass market is kind of more ahead in that way, just because they are, maybe a smaller indie brands that are a bit more dynamic and have a bit more kind of room to, um, yeah, be innovative in that sense and be more inclusive and
Yeah, I think mass market and any brand often can make inclusivity a foundational part of their identity, just generally, because
mm,
it's not just seen as an afterthought. I mean, Fenty is another prime example. Everyone touts Fenty out as being really pioneering. I don't. It's pioneer. You can be a pioneer when you have loads of money behind you, but
mm,
and it gets lauded for the amount of like shade variety it launched with. But I know of so many black-owned brands or general brands that already were doing those shade ranges, but not
yeah,
all as one. And they couldn't do it all as one because essentially they haven't got the funding.
yeah,
But I think with mass in any brands who put sort of diversity as a foundational part of their brand are really, really key, are really, really great. And like luxury brands can learn from that. Now, a brand I feel does it really, really well is topicals,
mm,
with messaging and products that center on diversity from the outset. It speaks to everyone,
yeah,
shows everyone. So in a way, diversity has not been a thing because from the jump, everyone's included.
mm,
Um, so like yeah, I think luxury brands can like definitely sort of move beyond surface level inclusion. Like, it's such as tokenistic campaigns or a single shade expansion. They need
yeah,
to weave diversity into DNA, like ensuring that Black customers are consistently like prioritized. Also, another thing is like I think mass and indie brands do quite well is again, I think it speaks to the idea of elitism, but like mass and indie brands I feel foster strong connections with their communities in
mm,
their development phases and ongoing. They take customer feedback as an integral part of their sort of brand development. They collaborate with influencers that are accessible and relatable as opposed to those that feel just unattainable and are celebrities.
mm,
They tend to kind of like work with more diverse professionals and creators in the Black community. And this ensures like really authentic relationships that resonate with their customers. For me, like luxury brands need to partner with more Black makeup artists, hairstylists, dermatologists to co-create brands and products,
mm,
educational content that speaks to Black consumers. And it shows also that they amplify Black creators and voices. So that shows that it's a part of their DNA, you know? Um, Also, I feel like indie brands can emerge from within Black communities, the Black community itself. So like their
yeah.
commitment always I feel in addressing inequalities is feels authentic because they are coming from being the change that they want to see. They
Yeah,
tend
they
to
know what it's like to feel underserved and they know what actually needs to be done to
exactly
rectify that.
and they tend to like I find like working with Black founders, they hire diverse teams. They tend
Mm.
to be more likely to invest in Black-owned supply chains, like really actively championing equity in their practices. And like for me, luxury brands need to really proactively like invest in equity-focused initiatives, like partnering Black-owned ingredient suppliers fairly, you know, funding
Of course.
scholarships for Black chemists, or creating mentor programs for Black entrepreneurs in the beauty industry. These are
Mm.
ways in which these luxury brands can see, okay, you know what, we're not just about the consumer spent pound we want to get, we're also about supporting the legacy of Black professionalism within this industry.
Yeah, all the way through the supply chain.
Exactly.
Um, do you think that celebrities could be you talk about like maybe don't just partner with the celebrity, but Do you think that they could be kind of the future of luxury beauty actually reaching the kind of black consumer? Because like things like Fenty Beauty, I mean, I don't know. I sort of see that as a luxury brand. I mean, it was, carried in like Harvey Nichols, and I think brands with people like Rihanna or like Pat McGrath at the helm, they do you think they've done sort of a little bit to kind of move the needle in that way?
Um, yeah, most definitely. I don't think they're necessarily celebrity brands are necessarily the future, but I can definitely see
Mm,
how and appreciate how they have really helped solidify the idea that diversity can be a commercially viable thing. Fenty's a prime example of that. You know,
mm,
it's a commercially successful brand, and their strategy was to be as diverse as possible. So therefore, a lot of brands saw that and picked up on it. So I think that's a positive thing. And I think with a brand like Pat McGrath Labs, like being able to see that a black founder can successfully launch a black brand that will be commercially accessible and successful for everyone, because her product range is for everyone, is a
mm.
positive thing for the industry as a whole. I don't necessarily, when it comes to celebrity brands,
I feel like they can be a force for good in that respect, because you've got that star power, and then they're also kind of serving those sort of overlooked communities as well.
yeah,
Um,
and it's interesting because they can afford to, you know.
mm,
Like with like, and also for me, I feel like just taking away from the luxury conversation for a moment, one of the things that's really important to me is economic equity. You know, I
mm,
don't particularly want to see our industry dominated by conglomerates. And more often than not, when you have a celebrity brand that is launched, it's backed by a huge
yeah,
investor or conglomerate, you know, and that's the reason why they can come out so hitting so hard, you know. I would love to be able to see, and I believe that we should be supporting more independent entrepreneurship.
definitely.
One of the key things that I've noticed over the years since being into industry is the emergence of beauty entrepreneurs who have great ideas, great products, very effective products, who are self-funding, bootstrapping, or slowly raising capital. And I think it's important for them to also have an equal opportunity within this market because
Mm,
for many a reason, you know, I feel like when something is founder-led, for me, maybe a bit misguided in this perspective, but I feel there's much more authenticity behind it.
definitely.
I feel a lot safer in my purchase decision because I there's not so many murky things to navigate what's going on behind the scenes of that brand, you
Yeah,
know?
there's that human connection, and like, that they could be active on social media, so you can actually talk to them and actually kind of
Yeah, and also
put your
like
questions to them.
maybe the principles of how the business is run and the brand is built and who they're associated with is a lot more clear cut than say a conglomerate who does this in this country and does that in the other. You know, for me, like I feel like consumers are becoming um, a lot more kind of like mind sort of like cognizant of ethical practices of businesses,
Mm.
you know, and a way in which I stand on this is by wanting to know clearly who I'm shopping with. And it's a lot clearer to understand that when it's an independent founder, from my perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you think that brand story is important then in that respect as well, like having a strong brand story?
I think a strong brand story is good. Yeah, I don't necessarily think the brand story needs to center the founder. I think like there was a podcast that you did. I can't remember who it was with, but it was you mentioned about like how it was a podcast or social media thing for that. Where basically, it's only female founders who are pressured as making
Yeah,
the narrative in
yeah.
their marketing strategy, and
Yeah, it's so true. It's that extra emotional labor that you have to do as a female founder
it's
because
just
you've
like
got to be likable as
I think
well.
it's great. I think it's great because we like to connect with others, but I don't think it's essential. What is essential is for me as a consumer, for consumers, understanding your brand values, why
Mm,
you do what you do, how you produce what you produce, and how this connects with me and my needs as a consumer. I don't need
mm.
to know if your backstory, if you it's fine if you want to put your backstory into your kind of narrative as to why you've launched it and fine, but don't feel the need to constantly be on your social media. Giving your all and like
Yeah,
creating emotional touch points with your customers. Because after a while, it can feel really disingenuous. It's the
whatsoever.
idea of being authentic. Like you can't consistently show up when you're trying to be someone you're not, you know? And that
For sure.
eventually wears you down and it can be read by the observer, you know, like you've just
Hmm.
like who you are. So just stay authentic to who you are. Like if you've got a strong brand, a strong product, let that do the talking for you.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, do you think that Black consumers are changing the landscape, like rather than waiting for the industry to catch up, catch up with them and change for them? Do you think that there are industry innovators within the Black community that are kind of changing the beauty landscape?
I mean, yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, I feel like
Mm,
Black British consumers have like a profound cultural influence on just global market trends, particularly through music,
yeah.
fashion, social media. And then combine this with like the growing spending power, I think they're in a way kind of poised to redefine what luxury means. And this like looks like demanding products and experiences that really resonate with their identities and values. One of the trends that I feel like has been here, is here, but I think will continue to grow is like luxury products tailored to melanin rich skin and hair textures. I think
Mm,
there'll be a surge in like premium skincare and hair care products that's really designed for addressing the needs of Black consumers. Things like hyperpigmentation, keloid scarring, curl definition, scalp health, etc. But like high performance luxury grade formulas are going to
mm,
become negotiable, for the Black consumer. Brands investing in scientific research tailored to like melanin rich skin and textured hair,
yeah.
offering like exclusive cutting edge solutions and delivering the premium way is just going to be the standard. I feel that the generation of Black consumer coming up is going to
Mm,
require like brands such as 456 Skin do this already and do it really well, and also the Steam Bar as well. I feel like
mm,
they are at the pinnacle of delivering specific products that are sort of formulated and developed with sort of like a diverse melanated skin type and a curl texture in mind. That's first and foremost that they've developed for. But then from that, anyone can use it. But like they often stand 10 toes down about like we have been developed first and foremost for this demographic, but everyone can use it. So the 456 Skin and the Steam Bar, I think,
that
do
was the
the
brand I was thinking of. I was like, who's that brand? That was that on my, the
456
name's on the tip
Skin.
of my tongue. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I'm really doing this well. Also, like inclusionary like luxury retail experiences, I feel like is a trend that we're gonna really
Mm.
see coming through. Like
People want to go offline. They don't want to be on social media. Everyone sort of fixated brands with like social media, but actually, like you said, people want the offline experiences that.
first space experiences. Like I feel because I did an interview yesterday, and one of the things, and we're talking about AI and tech and all this stuff. And I think
Mm,
all great innovation, but I think you know what? Luxury, I feel like going forward is going to be human connection, human interaction. And when it comes in the retail setting, I think like there is nothing you can't get better advice or guidance or feel held to make a consumer purchase better than in a physical retail store. But with those that are versed to guide you well, so they know their
mm,
stuff, sales assistants and store staff that truly are trained to talk widely about the needs of a wide demographic. And that is that it feels like a concierge service in a way. You feel like you're being spoken to uniquely for you and your needs. I feel like that
exactly.
is going to be a trend that comes through really, really strongly. And a place that does it really well is a place I did a talk with, Beauty Edit Mayfair. So they're
Mm.
a sort of beauty and wellness boutique in Mayfair. And I've been in there a few times, and one thing that really astounds me is how knowledgeable their staff are. Like, geez, I miss going to retailers. Like, sometimes when I go to general retail, like retailer, and I want to sort of like I'll go in for certainly for what I know I need from a brand I already shop, but I'm also open to trying something else. So I'll go into like a store and I will ask about this particular product, and I don't the level of kind of like I feel knowledge or care that's sometimes given is just lacking. And it's just like, well, you've just lost a customer there because like I'm not inspired by this purchase. But whenever I've been into Beauty at Mayfair, I feel like their staff knowledge is exceptional.
Mm.
Like from ingredients to what would work best on my tone on my skin. Just like I really appreciate the level of training that they go through and that they
Mm.
deliver to their customers. And I think like and across like ethnicity as well. I know that speaking to Sherelle, the founder, and they have a very, very, very vast sort of diverse customer base.
Are
So
they
that
black owned as a
yeah,
business?
Cheryl Riley owns her. She's black. She was the founder of Nails and Brows Mayfair, and
Mm.
open beauty edit a few doors up. And there's just like, again, when I say it's a bit, one could say, oh, it's luxury because of where it's located in Mayfair. But you know what I was saying about like Wealth Whispers, doesn't like it's not showy. It just like
No.
it's just showed up how it is, and it's just like it's not trying to be anything. It just feels like really just like this just feels like a really beautiful experience all around. Everything like every touch point feels just a bit different from what you get elsewhere.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I'd say those are kind of like trends. Also, like for the future, I think like luxury reimagined is inclusive and diverse. I think I was saying before, like traditionally Eurocentric and classless, and I think class is another thing that we need to look at here.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole other podcast. I
Yeah.
think that.
No, like I feel like traditionally, like the ideas of like luxury have been based in Eurocentric ideas and also class
Mm.
ideals. But I think this is like from a Black consumer perspective, and also it's not just a Black consumer because like, we're more doing in the talk I did a few weeks in October for the event. A really interesting point was made about women up in the northeast in Manchester or Liverpool specifically who walk around with their hair in rollers and scarves on, and then you have black girls who are walking around with satin bonnets, right? And
Mm.
one could look at that and be like, oh, it's just a working class thing to that's tacky, right? But I've been seeing a lot of like it coming through in higher end campaigns or shoots to fashion magazines, women
Yeah,
like that, you know? So something that was once deemed as like low class and you don't go out in public like that is now being embraced by high fashion, you know, and seen as and being seen as acceptable. But like, you know,
acceptable.
yeah, we
Mm.
don't. I feel like when it comes to like from a class perspective and also from a black, we don't. The permission is not required. We were doing it anyway and
Mm.
doing it with pride. We don't need it to be co-signed by the elite or by the higher echelons to deem it as acceptable. Because in fact this demonstrates that you come to us, you come to them for inspiration.
Yeah,
So that, like the notions of what is seen as luxury
it's like
are
tattoos and nail art, isn't it? It's that
yeah,
kind of
nail art's another prime
grace.
example. You know, nail art that
Mm.
was once seen as ghetto, then you had Shah bring it over to the mainstream in the West with wild nails, and then you saw it blow up everywhere. You know, it's
Mm.
just like I feel like as I was saying, I think Black people define beauty culture hugely, as
We
well
do, yeah.
people as well. I
Mm.
think class people, particularly from a fashion level, like streetwear, you know, is a prime
Oh my
example.
gosh, yes.
Yeah. Is that, you know, so I feel like the ideas of what is luxury is going
Mm.
to it has been being and will be continually being defined by Black culture and need to sharpen show out. It's already happening.
Yeah.
It's happening in a way, but I think I'm going to see like I think it's quite interesting like the way what going back again to what luxury is. This sort of challenges the idea of like, okay, when you have a demographic, it's like, actually, you know what? There's parts of me that may have been seen as ghetto ratchet at one time, but I now see the mainstream adopting this and making it luxury. So this is now luxury. I
Mm.
think,
How does that feel?
how does that feel? Like, from my perspective, it makes me just feel like, again, it's one of those things where I just like, I don't stand on nothing because I don't stand on anything industry-wise trying to kind of determine my identity, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't look to anything that's trend wise or just like groupthink wise that I need to lean into to be seen as
Yeah, you're
like,
already you. You don't need certain like that outward validation,
yeah,
that external validation in order
yeah,
to kind of co-sign on that. Like,
exactly. And also just going back to the retail part where I was talking about sort of inclusive luxury retail experiences.
mm.
It's kind when I was having a conversation with someone earlier this week about like and it's quite interesting whenever I've worked with brands and stuff and they who are wanting to enter bricks and mortar and they want to be in certain retailers because they see these retailers as being a higher echelon. They have like it's like market awareness, it's luxury yada yada yada. And I was talking to this woman recently, and she is launching something that I think is a really interesting concept, and I love it for her. And the reason I bring this up is because when it comes to retail, we've traditionally sort of thought of your Selfridges, your Liberty, your Harvey Nicks as retail destinations to go to.
Mm.
We have to go to them. We have to assimilate and fit ourselves into what they consider and where they consider luxury. Luxury doesn't come to us, but this woman is launching a concept in a location that has a predominantly black population, which you wouldn't necessarily consider as luxury, but it is rooted in black culture She's done a research. It has a wide cross-section of different socioeconomic households from that community in there. And she's launching this concept there. And I'm like, yes, can we
Yeah.
stop thinking of luxury places only being in one place and not within the communities where we exist?
Yeah, it's so kind of London centric, isn't it? Or like central London,
Yeah.
West London centric as well.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I hate going to central London. I don't consider it a luxury
Right.
experience. I consider it a fucking nightmare.
It's the exact antithesis of what a luxury experience
Yeah, I
should
don't want to
be,
go central
definitely.
London to buy stuff, but I
No.
understand why commercially it makes sense for others. But it also goes speaks to, okay, why can't we build our own luxury ideas of luxury and our experiences on our own doorstep? So
Yeah.
that may be a thing that's kind of. I was speaking to her, and also know two other entrepreneurs who are doing something very similar in terms of opening concepts and spaces in areas that you wouldn't necessarily think they would be, and I'm all for that.
Mm. 'Cause it's not about just getting into the luxury space or getting the luxury world to change. It's actually about redefining what luxury is and who are the gatekeepers of that.
Yeah, redefining also from a consumer level as well, because I think it's quite interesting that being realistic, looking at, like, I was speaking to a brand and looking at the office national statistics, like Black people tend to the general household income for Black people is quite low, but you still do have a strong kind of cohort of moneyed Black people who have disposable incomes. I would consider myself one of them, to be honest. I have disposable income. I like to buy things that I consider nice. But I often find it interesting when you have Black consumers who have money and where they choose to spend that money. It tends to be in established sort of like legacy brands that are from considered like high-end aspirational from a certain way, you
Mm.
know, like your Jacquemus, like your kind of like, I don't know, Celine, etc. But they don't spend on Black-owned luxury brands. And I'm like, why? And it's because essentially we are still looking at these labels as status symbols
Mm.
and as things to aspire to. And in a way, maybe we don't see our offerings from our own community as the same. And I really think that that needs to be kind of interrogated and questioned more. And one could say it's because there is not enough awareness, or we don't see these luxury Black-owned brands around. But they're out there. It may just require you doing a bit more digging, but they are out there.
Yeah.
And they are worth that investment because, as I said before, it's these brands that are really going to help shape the culture and the future of the beauty industry for us in a
Mm.
really authentic way. So it's really important that when you have the money, I mean, you can do what you want with your money, but like if you have the money and you're for ownership, equity, legacy, opportunity, maybe question why you're spending that money a bit more.
Yeah, because you have to vote with your feet at the end of the day, don't you?
Exactly, exactly. Money talks in that way.
No, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate it and I really enjoyed our chat. Lovely to chat with you as always. Looking forward to maybe having you back on in the not so distant future.
We'd love to. It's always good to catch up with you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. All links will be in the show notes, and feel free to visit smartbeautycreative.com or visit us over on Instagram to find out more about what we do. And if you enjoyed listening, please don't forget to rate and review Smart Beauty on iTunes, as it helps people find us. See you next time.